The smartest coaches I know in 2026 are doing something that sounds insane. They're deleting their Calendly, not pausing it, not lowering availability, they're deleting it. And they're making more money than they did when their calendar was packed. I want to start with a question that's going to sting a little. If your calendar is full but your bank account isn't, who's actually winning? Because every slot on your calendar is a cap on your income. Booked solid isn't the goal. Booked solid is the ceiling. You hit 8 calls a day and you're done. That's the math. You can't out hustle a calendar. But here's the part that most coaches haven't caught up to yet. And this is the real shift, right? Calls didn't get worse. Buyers got smarter. Your prospect in 2026 isn't the same prospect from 2021. They've watched 50 YouTube videos on how to spot a free strategy session. They know the script. They know when you're about to pitch. They know the fake scarcity, the I only have 2 spots left and let me check with my partner close. They've seen all of it, right? So when you send them a Calendly link, you're not inviting them to a conversation. You're triggering their defense mechanism. And then you wonder why your show up rate is tanking and your close rate is dropping every single quarter, right? This isn't a closer problem. This isn't a script problem. It's a model problem. And the model is broken. And the coaches who figured that out first are the ones quietly doing 250, 500, multiple 7 figures without a single Zoom call, right? And so today I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. One, what actually changed about buyers, and it's not what you think, and it's not going back. Two, the 5 reasons call-based selling is dying. Some of those you felt already, and some of them you haven't noticed yet. Three, what replaced it, the 2026 method. Four, the receipts. $10 million across all of our clients, over 200 calls booked using this. I mean, wait, scratch that. Over 200 closes with 0 calls booked, and I'm going to show you the numbers. And 5, a 3-step migration path so you can start this week, not next quarter, this week. So if you're booked solid and broke, this one's for you. Let's get into it. All right, so the title of this presentation today is going to be Sell Coaching Without Sales Calls. Why the smartest coaches are deleting their Calendly and what they do instead, the 2026 method, okay? So to start this off, I just want to make a point, right? Your calendar is full, but your bank account isn't. And this is the same case for a lot of creators that I meet, especially in the current online space, right? We get lots of people who are shopping, looking, booking calls, stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's converting into more money in your bank account, right? Every calendar slot in your calendar is a cap on your income, and booked solid is the ceiling, right? Because if you can't fit any more calls on your calendar, then you can't physically do more calls unless you hire more salespeople and different things like that, right? Cool. So what you're going to learn today is the full case, then the way out, right? So number one, what changes about buyers, and it's not with what you think. Number two, the 5 reasons call-based selling is dying. 3, what replaced it, the 2026 method. The receipts, right? $6 million collected, 200 plus calls booked. And then number 5, a 3-step migration path you can start this week. Okay. Calls didn't get worse. Buyers got smarter, right? Your prospect today has now seen at least 50, 60, 70 YouTube videos warning them about your strategy call, right? Your strategy session, your free call, your discovery call, all those different things, right? That's what's in the online space, and everyone is teaching that, especially in the coaching model, right? And so a lot of these people are highly aware of what's happening as conversations are happening and what the purpose of that call is, right? So whenever they show up on the call, they show up defensive. They show up arms crossed. They show up waiting for the pitch. And it's not your script, it's your container, right? It's the fact that people have been selling this particular way for such a long time that now everyone is kind of used to it, and so that offers a different level of resistance, right? And this is a skill for copywriting, but one of the things that we always try to figure out as copywriters is how can we get someone into the sales process without them realizing that they're in the sales process? And that's not what's happening right here, right? They're actually showing up knowing that they're going to be sold and pitched. Okay, so let's talk about the autopsy, or kind of everything about a 1-call funnel sale. Right? So you have 1 sale, 5 touch points, 2 weeks, 3 salaries, right? Give or take. So we have an ad. Now that ad is going to make it to a setter, and then the setter is going to qualify them, right? And make sure they have a good conversation. They're going to end up on a discovery call with your team. And then after they do the discovery call, they're going to do a pitch call, right? Give or take. Then after the pitch, we'll follow up, and then we'll close, maybe, right? So you'll notice how many times we're handing off right there, right? So we have the ad that hands off to a setter. Now, the setter has got to do their job and chat with them. And so if they don't do a good job, they're not going to get as many people on discoveries, or the people that they get on discoveries are not going to be qualified for the offer anyway. And then maybe they don't even make it to the pitch call, right? So you'll notice that every step in this process, there's a leak, right? And there's a timing issue as well. Every handoff is going to cause some level of friction. So for example, if someone sees the ad on Monday, they're hot there, maybe they talk to someone and they get on a call by Wednesday or Thursday, right? And then now we follow up with them over the next 2 weeks and maybe turn it into a sale. that process has some leaks built into it naturally that causes buyers to kind of run away, right? Or go shop with other people. So exhibit A, right? Let's talk about the capacity ceiling. So you've got one closer, or you in this case, a lot of times, the solo creator, right? You can basically manage 8 to 10 calls a day safely, give or take, right? Now that's if every call is an hour and then you're like on the dot, and you don't need to, do any human bodily functions like eat or, use the restroom or anything like that. And you can jam in this every single day, right? Or you have 8 to 10 phone calls, you're stuck on the computer and you're stuck on one-on-one conversations, or you could have 30 to 50 quality conversations with someone in text with that same person, and they're not locked into phone calls and everything like that, and they can talk to every single person at one time, right? There's no calendar coordination, no Zoom room, no like both free at the same time moment, right? We're talking like a huge leverage before they even have a conversation, okay? Exhibit B, the friction tax, right? So half of your pipeline evaporates before the conversation even starts, okay? Remember, people are going to book, and then they need to be reminded that they have an appointment, and then they might even reschedule, or they no show, and then they end up rebooking and then ghost, right? Show up rates run around 50 to 60% on a good week, okay? That means that half the people that you book, so if you book 100 people in a month, half those people are going to show up, right? And the problem with that is that all these people, right? They would have been interested potentially if we had kept conversation going with them, but because that there was a pause and we had to get them on a call before we got them more information, that causes friction, which then evaporates our pipeline, which then causes people to no show, different things like that, right? And buying in today's world is such an immediate emotional decision. Like when people are ready to purchase or they're ready to get something solved in that moment, they're moving pretty fast, right? So just that time between them booking a call with you versus booking a call with someone else, they may have 4 or 5 other sales calls with other people in your industry entertaining all your offers, right? So that's the big problem with a lot of this, okay? And then exhibit C, to scale calls, you're not just scaling sales, you're building a call center, okay? You got setters, you got closers, you got managers. You got to train these setters, you got to train the closers, you got to make sure the managers are training these people. And then you got payroll, right? Payroll is interesting because setters are not going to work for free, closers aren't going to work for free, and neither are managers. So there's some level of guaranteed fixed income that has to be provided as well in to keep all these people on board, as well as commission structures, right? And one person trained in text can handle like 10, 100, 200 people at one time, right? So instead of having all these individual people, you could have one person that's basically a setter and a closer, and now the manager has to deal with less people overall as well. So as you kind of scale up your phone call business, your infrastructure requires more people, and usually requires a whole different management team to be able to keep that leg of the business going, which has its own leaks as well. Hiring, firing, making sure we got the right talent, everything like that. Yep. So remember that your pitch is only as good as your closer's worst day. So in the cases of phone calls, right? If your closer is having a good day, fantastic. Your sales are going to look good, right? But if they're having a bad day, maybe their girlfriend broke up with them or something like that. If they've been a little emotional that day, right? Their performance drops overnight. And so literally you're betting your income on someone's mood that day, which is not good, right? Not to say that people can't hold it together, but I'm just saying as someone, as an entrepreneur, creator, betting man, I do not want to bet on someone else in terms of making sure that the income comes in the way I need it to. Okay, so your pitch is only good as your word closer. Buyers just need information presented precisely. Okay, that's all they need. So in terms of when it comes to whether that sales conversation happens on the phone or in text, the same thing is true, right? They just need to be presented the information, presented precisely, and it needs to answer the questions that they're asking. Okay, precision is the product. Calls can't guarantee it. Systems can. Okay, exhibit E, that kind of is the thing here, right? Buyers are starting to prefer text, right? DMs kind of feel like confiding in a friend, having a conversation, and actually having like a chat with someone, right? Where when I get on a call with someone, it feels like a pitch, right? On a call, there's pressure, right? Whenever I'm texting someone, there's no pressure. There's no one staring at me on Zoom, right? There's no timeline, right? So I can read, respond, I could rewatch, I can do a lot of stuff before I'm required to respond. I can't do that on a phone call. I got someone staring at me, right? And then buying feels like the natural next step of the relationship, right? So in the case of when I'm talking to someone through the DMs, I'm asking them if they want help, and I'm helping them out and having a genuine conversation there, right? buying to them makes sense because we've been having a good chat via the DMs versus like on a phone call, because that rep or that person on the call tends to be someone earning commission. They will say things and add pressure unnecessarily whenever none of that stuff is really needed in order for the person to make a buying decision, right? In fact, that salesperson can turn off someone because they were too sales, right? Important. So your buyers screen calls from their own mother, okay? So the idea that they actually want a 45-minute Zoom call with a stranger is just a story that we tell ourselves because it's the process that we built. But that's not necessarily true, right? Your buyer is going to avoid calls from their mom, their friends, everything like that. So similar here, right? Like people in general are leaning towards like, how can I get the information and don't get me on a phone call unless absolutely necessary? And usually whenever it's time for a phone call, they're already made their decision. And it's mostly like just us kind of trying to clear out a couple of things as well, right? So if you're a solo coach, this is double, okay? Every hour that you're closing is an hour that you're not coaching, okay? So 10 discovery calls plus prep plus no shows is a full work day every single week, right? Mostly spent on people who don't even buy. And the masterclass is the key part of this whole process that sells while you coach, and the VSL pitches while you sleep, right? So instead of you having to do all these things manually, you're relying on digital assets to handle some of these pieces for you, like the nurturing and the pre-education and the pitch. So then that way you're spending more time actually in delivering for your business instead of selling for your business, right? Because the reality is that yes, sales are important, like you need to make the money, but the thing that keeps the customer is the fact that you are good at your craft and that you are a good coach and you can get people results. So the better scenario would would be, how can I put you in a situation where you're not worried about sales and all the hard selling stuff as much, and you're able to spend more time on the coaching and making your products better because you have all of these things in place, right? But high ticket needs trust, right? Trust doesn't come from hearing your voice. It comes from being helped before they pay, right? The call was never really a trust mechanism. It was just where trust had to happen because there was no one else. There's nowhere else to kind of do it, right? Now there is another place to build trust, which is the DMs or text, okay? Now, super key with this. If they're not going to watch a 20-minute masterclass video, they're never going to buy your $10,000 offer or your $500 or your $1,000 or $2,000, whatever price point your offer is, right? Pre-education doesn't lose you buyers. It just shows you which leads were actually real leads. Because someone raising their hand and messaging you and saying, hey, I'm interested does not mean I'm ready to buy, okay? And that is like the number one thing that I want to point out here for anyone watching this video, for creators, especially if you're working with individual marketing agencies and stuff like that. We have this tendency to believe that just because we're getting DMs means that all these people are buyers and they're qualified. A DM from a person does not mean it's a DM from a qualified person, okay? So if you're a big creator and you can generate 20,000, 30,000 DMs through your messages, but none of those people are buying, then guess what? It has nothing to do with the offer. I mean, it has more to do with the offer, but it has to do with your audience, right? The people that are coming in, if they're not buying from you, but you're getting tons of messages of people that they're interested, it means that you need to do better at sales, right? But don't need to blame anyone else but how we're generating the leads, okay? So anyway, to resurface all that, if they're not going to watch this 20-minute, 30-minute video of you kind of explaining your framework and how you teach everything, then they're not going to buy your $10,000 offer anyway, okay? So what replaced the calls? The 2026 method, okay? So it's 4 moves, 1 job each. So first things first is we're going to educate. So educating with a masterclass. So we have a crafted training video that we use to be able to teach people and educate them on certain topics, right? So I don't know what your expertise is for the person watching this video, right? But you, generally speaking, have some kind of expertise. We want to teach that and educate people that in a masterclass type scenario, right? And the reason I keep saying masterclass is because this video is not a pitch video. It is me taking the time to explain how I can provide value to you, me taking the time to like map out my flows and my processes so you can see how we help people, right? This is not an opportunity for us to pitch because there's not really any need to, right? People are either going to understand what you have to offer, they're going to see what you have and they'll be like, yes, I like it, or they're not. And that's okay, right? We're using these videos to filter them out, okay? So the 4 moves, first step is educate. And number 2 is going to be converse. So in the DMs, right? So after they see this masterclass video, we're going to be having a conversation with them in the DMs. Now, once we have this conversation with them, we're going to qualify them, make sure they're a good fit, everything like that. And then we're going to get to the present phase where we actually present the video or the VSL, right? Then once they see the offer in the chat, then we have the close, right? And if you didn't see the full breakdown in my video prior to this one of the prior ones, actually I do a full 7-step breakdown of this entire process. This is just a little bit of a condensed version. Okay, so what's the mindset shift that we should have here? We want to stop hunting and start consulting. What does a hunter do? A hunter is looking for openings to pitch. Pressure is going to apply, speed to close. It's basically the energy that buyers learn to defend against. It's being overly excited, saying too much stuff, trying to sell too hard, trying to sell too much on the benefits, trying to explain too much, right? Not good. We want to be a consultant, right? We're looking for people to help. We want to understand their situation. We want to match the solution to them. We want to guide that decision. But ultimately, the difference between a hunter and a consultant is that the hunter needs the close and the consultant doesn't, right? The consultant's like, hey, this is how we can help. Here's the solution. You let me know if this is something that you are okay with and you want to work with, right? Versus the hunter is like, no, this is the solution. You need to buy this from me. This is why. And you're kind of like forcing that. So we want to stop the forcing and start consulting in the DMs, and that will help out a lot as well. So in a sales call, right, that 45-minute clock turns a kind coach into a used car salesman, right? Whenever you're in text, it removes that clock. Nobody hangs up and the conversation can breathe, and so can the buyer, right? Not a lot of pressure. The close is customer service, not sales pressure, okay? The close is making sure that they feel like it's a good fit for them, that they understand what they're buying, they have clarity, and they can see all the benefits, they understand everything that's a part of, right? Like the close is more customer service based and making sure that the offer is a good fit for them, not sales pressure, right? And it's not just more ethical, it's more profitable, right? Whenever you sell this way with no pressure and you just present the offer and make sure that it's a good fit for them and that it's a solution for what they're looking for, and you present it in such a way that they can kind of take it or leave it. Hey, this is what it is. If you want it, great. If you don't want it, no problem, right? If that is our framing, then that's going to be more profitable. Your close rates are going to go up, refunds are going to go down, and your referral rates are going to go up because nobody likes to be pressured. They want to be consulted with, right? And the receipts. So this is not a faith-based decision, right? This year, one account, over $250,000 generated through chat already. Over the last 3 years, over $6 million on one account, right? 280,000 in 1 month. That's Jason Capital. And another account that we did, over 200 calls booked, over $250,000 cash collected in the fitness nutrition space, right? That was the first month, and the system did 90% of the work, right? So this is not something that I just like pulled out of my butt or anything like that. This is something that's been tried and tested over the last, 5 to 7 years of our time working on these accounts, right? And I personally work with over 100 accounts combined across all of the revenue that we generated. If you were to count consulting clients and people that we've helped in communities, we're well over $60 million in tracked revenue. And it's following the same pattern, right? When the system does the selling, the humans just guide the decision. There's no call center on the payroll, okay? When a call still makes sense. So the call is the exception they earn, not the default you pay for. So after the education, the conversation, the video, the call is a 10-minute fit check with a pre-sold buyer, not a 90-minute grind with a defensive stranger, right? So we're not going through and pitching this person again, having to go through the whole discovery process. All that stuff already happened in the chat when you follow our system, and it's really making sure that, hey, that they know this is a human. It's not an AI run organization. We're real people here, right? They're actually talking to real humans and real people. That's really what that 10-minute check-in is, and really just making sure that they're going to actually get some of these things that we talked about. And what's funny is that the better you sell through text, the more you're going to see this as well, where people just want to check in because they're like, man, that was such a really good conversation. It got to be AI. Like I've got to see if this is a real person, right? So that's how you know you're doing it right. Now, granted, what I find personally, right, is there are ways to get through this without even doing the call. We've done it plenty of times. There are going to be some scenarios where they're just like super adamant about it, right? And you can't really avoid those. So I just want to be upfront with you guys about that, right? Okay, cool. So what is your migration path? Like what I don't want you to do is delete your Calendly tomorrow, right? I want you to slowly migrate over. So I want you to add the text path to your call path, right? Like right next to it. So the next DM, instead of someone saying, like when they say how much, instead of you just immediately dropping the Calendly or rushing to it, right? Let's have that conversation directly in the DMs, right? Number two, record one 15 to 30-minute training this week and make that the call to action, right? So you're going to route new leads through education first before you have a conversation with them, right? And I want you to track both paths for 30 days, right? So I want you to have one path that people are going through education and one path where you're just having that call, that chat via text and doing it a little longer before you drop that link, right? And just see what happens, right? And I want you to track this on your side. And what you're going to find out is you're going to find that there's a different lead time for people who are only text and then people who get routed through education first, right? The people who are going to go only through your text and they have no kind of pre-education, those people, it's going to be a longer sales call and they're going to turn over. It's going to take a long time for them to turn over. People who are pre-educated, they're going to watch that video and they're going to be more sold. They're going to take action faster, right? But again, right, you got to do it on your own. You track it for me on my side, and then you let me know. You track it for you on your side, and then you guys let me know in the comments how it goes, right? So track both paths for 30 days, cost per close, time per close, show up rate, all that stuff, and then you let the data decide, okay? One warning, do not rebuild the thing that they were running from, okay? Copy paste templates and texts are just high pressure calls with worse grammar, right? Real questions, real listing, permissions at every step. Like, have a real genuine conversation with these people, right? If they feel like they're talking to automation, or if we're like bot-like and we're not listening to their questions and not responding properly, then having a sales conversation via text is not as good by any means as doing it on the phone call, right? So there is a type of skill that needs to be developed here with that. So lock these in. 3 things to remember, okay? Number 1, buyers have changed. They arrive defensive. So now the call format itself works against you, okay? Number 2, the math doesn't lie, right? You can get 10x the conversations, no friction, no call center, and a perfect pitch every time if you do it all through text. And then number 3, text is the default and the call is the earned exception, okay? You're gonna let the system sell and then let the call confirm. Hope you guys got a ton out of this video. Hit like and subscribe below so you can see my next video. If you have any questions, hit them in the comments and be on the lookout for my next video on YouTube. If you want the full system, the full breakdown from what I talked about here, 7 steps, VSL, drop, all that stuff, go check out my video from one of the videos on my page, and that will break down the whole thing for you. And I'm gonna link that same video down in the description. Otherwise, hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I'll chat with you very soon. Peace.